Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Tuckcast with a splash of bourbon, presented by Tuckaseegee Fly Shop with locations in Bryson City and Sylva, North Carolina. Be sure to follow the crew on Facebook at Tuckaseegee Fly Shop, Instagram at Tuck Fly Shop, and YouTube at Tuckaseegee Fly Shop for all the latest information and instructional videos. Be sure to visit tuckflyshop.com for all things fly fishing, Western North Carolina and beyond. Remember, the online store is always open. Today's episode is sponsored by CE Tech Innovations. Located and machined in North Carolina, CE Tech Innovations machines fly tying bases and accessories that allow you to take your tying vise to the next level. Check out all the great products at CE Tech Innovations. Today's special in-studio guest is Marvin Cash of the Articulate Fly. I'm your host, Shannon Big Mess, and joined by Bobby the Bearded Wonder, and of course, the coach, Dale Collins.
Get to it.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the Tuckcast. Marvin, great to have you here in this Sylva recording studio.
Yeah, I really appreciate you guys having me over. I'm really looking forward to it.
Well, excellent. I feel like we have a really good show here today. Just want to take a moment to remind everyone that you can watch this on our YouTube channel, Tuckaseegee Fly Shop. You can get all the camera angles. Also see all the great videos that we put up through this, photos, things like that. So be sure to follow us there, give us a subscription, and hit that dinger bell so when something new comes up, ding, you've got it before anybody else.
On these product reviews.
Oh, absolutely. You know, we've got some great stuff out there and positive feedback from people too.
That's right.
And we really appreciate that, the feedback we're getting, the comments, the questions. Got to give some shout out to some people, coming up here and seeing us, driving up from Spartanburg, Salisbury, coming to visit with us, booking trips with us. We appreciate you doing that, and you've met us through the podcast and the YouTube videos, and it's great.
That's right.
And we appreciate that for sure.
Well, so before we get too carried away, we're a splash of bourbon, okay, but today it's a little different. We got a pale ale from our neighbor down the street, Balsam Falls Brewing. I forget the name of it. Pale ale works. And then
Dale's second choice. That's what we call it.
yeah. And then our good buddy Santiago down the street at the wine cellar brought us a bottle of Malbec. So, which I just broke the top half of the cork off.
Oh,
so
man.
now I don't have a wine opener here, a bottle opener here. So
I'll show you a trick afterwards
all right, sounds good.
with a pin in the shoe.
Man,
Works great
gotcha. Well, things happen, Dale.
if you really want to drink it.
Things happen.
Water it is.
Good deal. So as we kind of proceed here today, we got some really neat news there in our local happenings event that Bobby's going to cover here with you folks. So I'm going to warn you now. Pay attention.
To me?
Yeah.
Oh, it's my turn.
No, it's a lot of information. Local happenings.
Yeah, it is. It's a bunch this week. So beginning Monday, which is today, June 8th, the following areas will be accessible in the national park.
Now open.
That's it. Cades Cove and Smokemont campgrounds. So that's like the group campgrounds where you've got neighbors on either side of you, basically. Those are open. The Anthony Creek Horse Camp, I don't even know where that's at, to be
Anthony's
honest.
Creek.
Anthony's Creek. That's
I
where
don't
I'm
know
gonna
where
go
that
with.
is, though.
I assume that's probably on the Tennessee side somewhere. Sugarlands, Oconaluftee, Cades Cove, Klingman's Dome, all those visitor centers, and the Great Smoky Mountains Association bookstores are all open as of today.
Yes.
Backcountry Information Office at Sugarlands Visitor Center, that is open today. Cable Mill and Mingus Mill, if you've never gone to those, it's pretty cool, especially if they're making some grits. You can buy some. Those are open. Abrams Creek Road, Cataloochee Road. We get a lot of questions about that. They finally finished the construction from the washout. So that is open. You can go fish Cataloochee. I bet the fishing up there is spectacular.
Right. So they have actually got the road only open to the Palmer Chapel. So apparently there's been a washout upstream from there this winter that we were not aware
There you
of. So,
go.
but you can get up to that area, and I'm sure you can walk up Palmer Creek and fish a bit.
And then Forge Creek Road and Rich Mountain Road. Those are all open. Beginning next Monday, June 15th, Elkmont Road, Elkmont Campground, and Spence Cabin. All of those will be open. So that's kind of the local happenings of what's getting open. Again, for Swain County, Jackson County, all the restaurants and stuff seem to be open now. Some are doing seating, some aren't. It just depends on what the ownership wants to do. Hotels, same thing. As far as I know, I think just about every hotel's operating now. Campgrounds outside the park, if you got an RV and stuff like that, all those have been open. So just call ahead and make sure before you get up here and realize, oh, my favorite spot's not available or whatnot.
Maybe you mentioned it and I missed it, but any word on Straight Fork?
So the Straight Fork gate is still closed.
Yeah.
The last information I had from Andy was with him riding his bike up through there, they were still grading on the road.
Okay.
The other thing that's kind of interesting to me on this here, if you look, Cataloosa Road's open, but the campground's not. Deep Creek is.
I don't know why Deep Creek Campground's not open yet.
Deep Creek Campground's not open,
I don't
but
get
you
so
can.
much
I know they've had some issues with staffing.
Well, that makes sense, but
Marvin, you need a job. Sounds like you might be able to man the
There you
ranger
go.
station.
yeah. So that's something I want to point out.
All park fees payable to
you know,
Tuck Fly Shop.
There you go.
But still, backcountry camp sites are open still at a reduced capacity. So for you folks that are doing some backcountry camping, great time of the year too to be doing that.
That's right.
That's right.
And I also heard this could be some fake news from Russia, but Cades Cove Road Loop will be closed on Wednesdays. So it's like just pedestrian traffic. And
I thought they did that with
traffic.
bikes. anyways,
That's been something
That's-
they've typically done for
Man,
quite some time.
That's kind of cool. So
I think it's not all day too. It's just
I think it's till lunchtime.
till
or something,
noontime.
until the bears
come
So
out.
if you're, I guess they let them have their pickings of what they want first, and but people that bike too, they like to bike that loop, and it gives them a chance to bike
Yeah.
that.
out of the cars.
That's a long loop.
It's 11 miles.
Have you seen people over there like somehow they make it? You know, some poor families that are over there. They got their bikes on their pop-up campers and stuff, and they start that pilgrimage.
then they're on like the Death March by
Then
mile 4.
then they're like pushing, and then you're backed up in traffic, but you see in your side mirror, here comes a bicycle, and you know at any moment you could expect that Tour de France crash
Oh yeah.
down there. It's bad.
Marvin,
It's
have you
ugly.
experienced the traffic jam of Cades Cove?
I have.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah, it
everybody knows that.
seemed like a good idea at the time.
Yeah, they always did. I'm with you on that for sure.
We should have taken a right.
Oh man, but yeah, I tell you something that we did kind of before we get started in this a few weeks ago, and I will encourage people to do this. We set off. We went down below Fontana Dam, 20 Mile Creek. There was a lot of cars parked at 20 Mile Creek down there. But we rode the Tail of the Dragon, and Braden thought that was kind of the neatest thing there was to have our picture made in a curve there. But we hit that new section. No. But we hit that new section of the parkway, that Foothills Parkway, that they recently opened up, and the views along that are spectacular.
Yeah.
It's a different perspective looking back toward the park. So if you're looking for something to do, to get out with family and just maybe ride around or something, I suggest that. We enjoyed that. For sure. So throw that out there. There's a little spicy thing to add to your life.
Something.
I think my chair's sinking. It's like I adjust this camera, then I look over and it's like, man, it's almost out of the shot again.
Your chin's on the bottom of the screen.
You know, Dale, I've
There we
tied
go.
many a fly sitting in that chair, and that chair has never sunk.
Well, I got a few pounds on it.
That plant-based diet, man. Looking good over there, brother.
So we're
Looking
gonna
good.
let Dale talk here about, since he's been using it, the Scout fly tying base from CE Tech Innovations, who's the show sponsor today. So Dale, you've had that thing for what, about a year now?
Man, such a cool product, and to know that you're supporting. I think Marvin and I have talked about it. The cottage craftsman industry that's kind of built into fly fishing. Everybody kind of getting creative on their own and making products to fit a need, fill in a gap. And this one is awesome. It's a fly tying base, fits, I'd say, most vices, pedestal vices. And it's very heavy, fully machined, anodized in North Carolina. So I take a lot of pride in that, being able to use that product. But just very functional. It's a heavy base, not recommended to put in your luggage to fly.
That's a loud motorcycle going by.
But no, I love the cork in the middle. I can stick some finished flies in. It's got a magnet in one of the basins there that kind of gathers a lot of beads and hooks there, so you can stay organized. But when you really need to torque down, I find with a lot of factory bases, they'll flip. Yep. And so traditionally, I've liked actually the clamp-on bases before I tried this, because you can torque on this and it doesn't move. So just a fantastic product. Corey Easter He
Something happened there, Shannon.
Corey Easter out there in Mount Airy. Go to his website, check it out, CE Tech Innovations. He's got a array of products that coincide with this. He's got the little pegs that tie into the tool ports, and those are outstanding. I can put my bodkin, the bobbins, several different bobbins, scissors. I've got an 8 and 6 year old running around at home. I can stay pretty organized and keep them safe from a lot of those things. So yeah, great little product.
Yeah, the one thing I'll mention is it's made 100% in the USA, which is cool.
North Carolina.
North Carolina. I think it gets anodized in Roanoke, Virginia, but it's machined and everything in North Carolina.
Actually, no. I think he said it's anodized in North Carolina.
No, he told me he had to drive to Virginia to get them anodized. So
bad.
he always waits for a batch. Before
Go
he makes
Tar
the trip.
Heels, though, man. Go Tar Heels.
Roanoke, they pick up some of the Greensboro market on radio stations.
Man.
So.
Yeah, there it is.
Go Tar Heels.
So
I remember listening to Rock 92 in Roanoke.
have you ever messed with that CE Tech base?
I haven't tied on it, but I've seen it. And I think kind of the coolest thing, to your point, is, if you think about kind of a standard out-of-the-box, non-upgraded base for a vise, I mean, the footprint of that CE Tech vise is probably 6 times as big.
Yeah.
Which is what really lets you, particularly if you're spinning deer hair, lets you absolutely crank down on it.
That's right. So I think he's working with Shannon, correct me if I'm wrong, Norvice on working on.
He's talked about it. Yeah, he said
he's talked. I don't know, where that particularly is going or not going at that point in time, but we'll see. If I'm spinning around over here, it's because my gimbal just seems to be like, so we're currently working on that. But
the batteries aren't made in Roanoke.
I don't know where they're made at, but it's fully charged. But anyway,
It used to
though,
be made in Lexington, North Carolina. And then
it is a neat product. I've actually messed with it as well, and it has those posts where you can put your thread on it.
That's right.
I don't know if you mentioned that or not.
Well, and they're you can move them around.
Yes, it's fully, to an extent, it's customizable there as well. Plethora of colors. There's different plethora of colors for you to choose from there. And everybody I know that's used it's been very happy with it. So it's a great product. Be sure to check out CE Tech Innovations there. Look them up. We appreciate them being a sponsor. They come up here and fish. They've been really good to us. They've been to some of our, obviously, vendors at some of our shows there, and we really appreciate their sponsorship of the Tuckcast.
Yeah, it's been awesome.
Absolutely.
So Marvin, we're going to jump into the interview. I'm going to let Dale somewhat lead the interview because he's the one that does most of the fishing reports with you. So I know you guys have talked a lot over the last year.
Yeah, we bonded.
Yeah, it is. There it is. So we'll let Dale go through all that and ask you all the important questions.
Yeah, I was the first non-shop person to know that he had pirated the kegerator from the shop.
Yes, he did.
Yeah, that's right.
He did.
Lots of fishing reports given over a pint on the back deck.
Hazy IPA.
The Hazy Mountain IPA. So from Nantahala Brewing there. So the Articulate Fly. Marvin is the voice of the Articulate Fly podcast, and Marvin and I met 2 years ago, maybe. I can't remember.
Was it a bow show up in Virginia?
I think it was actually at the Fly Fishing Museum Hall of Fame.
I met you down at the brewery.
Yeah, we were slinging pizza and beer everywhere, and
I've never seen anyone in my life so drunk. I'm joking.
We became great
joking.
friends that night.
Yeah, I'm joking.
Was that the first time? Really?
I really think it
might have been. Yeah,
I mean, because I can remember coming in your shop when it literally first opened and walking in there and down in Bryson City on the corner. But I thought for sure I had met you guys before the Hall of Fame dinner, but maybe not. Who knows?
It's possible.
It's possible we met, but we never knew.
You can meet Bobby.
I don't remember
tomorrow.
anybody.
He's already forgot. So we started. I did a full interview there with you on the Articulate Fly, and then we do every other week fishing report, and that's been a lot of fun to do with you. So Marvin, tell us a little bit about the Articulate Fly and what it is.
Yeah, so I guess, for a long time I'd wanted to do a podcast, and I kind of kick myself now because, you should just take that Nike philosophy and just do it. Or don't. But what I was really working on when I started it almost 2 years ago was I had spent a lot of time kind of in the not-for-profit space in fly fishing. And I was really, really concerned about building a larger community. I saw the organization that I was working with kind of dealing with the fact that their members were getting older, right? And so that old club model was not that universal umbrella. And then, I think all of us, we're all old enough that we probably fished with our dads or our grandfathers, and that's probably how we learned to fish, but that's not how most people are learning to fish today.
That's right.
And so I really started it as kind of a digital laboratory to work on community.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I wanted to work on that community puzzle. And then kind of the other piece of the puzzle that I wanted to work on was helping people in the industry make more money, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's, what I call being a digital gardener and like working with you guys to get the word out. But also, if you take young guys or young girls and, they get married and they want to start a family, there's a pull to take them off the water, right? Or if you talk to an older guide who's like maybe in his mid to late 50s or early 60s and he wants to get off the water, but he's got to replace the income. And so one of the things I really wanted to work on, and I've been working on that, a lot of people don't see, is ways to help those people get income so they can stay connected to the sport, right? Because I think, if we all do a little bit that way, then, 15, 20 years, 30 years from now, we're going to have a more robust community. And I think that's really important, right? Whether it's, we need people to advocate for access or conservation issues or talk about Bristol Bay. And so that's really kind of why I do it. And, I've been really blessed. People have been super generous with their time and access. And, I'm really humbled by the support.
Yeah. We've been thrilled to support you there and we have people come in. We just happened last week. Some guy came in from Florida. He's up here with his wife and said he, listens to the podcast and want to know who that feller was that gives a report from us. And I was like, well, it depends on whether you like it or not. But
I've had a lot of people come in and say, hey, you guys have been on that podcast giving them a report. So a lot of people listen to it, man. It's
definitely growing it.
It's kind of funny too. I think the funniest experience like that I've had was up at the Virginia Fly Fishing and Wine Festival, and I was just talking like on the aisle. And I think maybe 3 booths away from your booth, and someone goes, "You're that guy." And I was like, "What guy is that?"
That's funny. Me and Shannon had a similar conversation today. I said, "It's funny now when I answer the phone, people go, 'Hey, you're Bobby.' Like they recognize your voice instantly."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Yeah." And they're like, "Oh, we listen to the podcast." And I'm like, "Okay, that makes sense."
And next month you'll be in Tiger Beat magazine, so it'll all be good.
That magazine still exists? Oh my gosh, lovely.
I'm like, what's Tiger Meat?
It's a teen pop magazine.
Oh.
You really don't know?
No.
Oh, he really doesn't know. Was there a Tiger Beat and there was like some teen thing? Wasn't there?
I don't know.
Yeah.
It was always like kind of like in the 70s, like someone like Leif Garrett would be on
Yeah,
the
Leif
cover
Garrett.
of Sean Cassidy.
Yes, Leif
Who's
Garrett.
Leif Garrett?
Oh gosh, that's another time.
Well,
What's that movie library you need to share with Dale there, Marvin, and educate?
Oh yeah. All the great like late 70s, early to mid 80s movies like Animal House, Caddyshack, Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Yeah.
Old School, Hangover.
Those I know. That's what got me through my Cullowhee education. What? So you've had the pleasure of interviewing some really big names in the industry.
Michael Jordan.
Yes.
I mean,
was it called The Last Cast? Let's see. George Daniel. It's slipping my not Lance Egan. What's his name out in?
I don't know.
South Platte.
Landon Mayer.
Landon Mayer. Yes, thank you. So, who's been besides me like your favorite person to interview?
Not to duck the question, but I think they're all have really amazing stories.
Yeah.
Right. And I work really hard to try to take a new approach when I interview people. Like I was lucky enough to recently interview Tom Rosenbauer, and we spent half the interview talking about his chocolate making hobby. But I think it's interesting to hear, how people got to the sport. And then, I think fly fishing is really a unique in our community that people are incredibly generous and open. Yeah. And so, I've been just amazed at how people have reached out and spent time, and also, and then people you just don't know that will, particularly I'm working on a limited series of interviews about the people that live in Bristol Bay. They don't know me from Adam, and these people are willing to trust me, with their time, which I think is really important, but also to tell their story.
Yeah.
Right? So.
Yeah, that's important. So, where do you see the articulate fly down the road? What's next?
What's your 10-year plan?
My 10-year plan. Well,
I was thinking next week.
Typically, we go 5-year plan, then maybe the 10-year plan. So, wow.
Yeah. I mean, when I started it, I wanted to work on the community stuff, but I think, what you'll see kind of coming from me in the near future is more of that content to help people in the industry, whether it's working with shops like yours or people in the industry to come up with new revenue streams. But also, I really, the entire goal of this was to build an outdoor podcasting network.
Yeah.
Right. And so I've been a big believer that you have to do stuff before you tell people or try to figure out how to do it. So I've really kind of almost used this 2-year period as an internship. Right. And so it's like super cool to come see you guys, like the tech that you guys like to use. And I watch other podcasters but it's all about just trying to find that connection. So I mean, that's what my goal is. Right. And is to kind of grow this thing and, grow it outside of the Southeast. And
that's right.
That's cool.
then I'm going to have my own branded liquor.
When you look at our tech, I don't know if you want to follow us. We don't know what we're doing. We just kind of pieced it together.
You got pretty awesome tech.
It's definitely been trial by fire, man. No doubt.
I have tech envy. I'll tell you.
There was one day that me and Shane, I think we're about to throw some stuff through the windows. Man, it was so frustrating. We couldn't get it to work right. And
And then we found a dongle.
And then the dongle works.
The dongle fixes, and then
now we don't even need the dongle.
And then we realized that we have to hit the record button too.
Yeah.
So where'd you come up with the name?
It's
the
kind of
articulate.
Yeah, I mean, I literally, I think I probably still got the list on my phone.
Where'd you steal it? That's what he's really asking.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I was brainstorming names, and and it just came up, and it was kind of a nifty play on words.
Yeah.
And
I like it.
And then, and so, I like that. But then I also, for if, you guys have listened to a lot of the episodes, but, I try to really, tell people's story in a pretty compelling way. Like I remember when I interviewed you, Dale, I was like, look, I'm going to give you a piece of evergreen content that we're done with that like literally 20 years from now, you can let your kids listen to, and they'll be like, well, what was Dad thinking about? Right. And I'm a big believer about also,
why's his voice cracking? He's 37. That's probably
I
was so nervous in that interview.
Yeah, but but it's funny. But I guess I would say, part of it is just telling people stories, and because I think when you do that, whether it's a brand or a guide or a shop, that's the stuff that makes people want to come buy your stuff. Right.
Yeah.
That's what, like, during the downturn has kept, people coming to see you and making a special effort saying like, hey man, like I can't use this right now, but I want to buy a gift card or I want to book a guide day and I don't even know when I'm coming.
It's definitely about the relationships.
Yeah. And so that little piece of the puzzle was kind of how I was like, I kind of really like the Articulate Fly, and I could buy the domain name. So it was all good.
Just keep punching them in until it's like, okay, that one works. Nobody owns it.
One last one for me. What is kind of is this what is, besides Articulate Fly, what is Marvin Cash?
Besides the brother of Johnny.
Yeah, the brother of Johnny.
Did we put that up?
I almost put that on the screen just as a joke. That would have been great.
So my day job is I'm a lawyer. And so probably 3 years ago, I've really struggled with the way the legal profession has changed and being a big law firm. And it was just it wasn't fulfilling for me.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I was sitting here and I was like, I really believe you have a finite number of heartbeats. And
that's kind of how I think.
Yeah. Well, and I
we had that conversation in a jogging. You're like, I don't want to waste any heartbeats on a job.
Yeah. Well, I'm not talking about exercise regimes, but I was like, and also I wasn't really necessarily fulfilled with some of the people that I was helping, and so I wasn't getting any younger. I'm not getting any younger now, and so I basically left kind of large law practice and started my own law firm so that I would have the flexibility to work on stuff like this so that I can get in the car and, not have a managing partner saying,
Where are you going?
yeah. And really what I use the law practice for is, I'm deeply dedicated to my clients. I mean, I have some of them I've literally known since my freshman year of college.
Wow.
But I use it as a muse to really kind of help me do what I really, really want to do. Right. And that was really just kind of an outgrowth of a really long journey out of the Great Recession. Right. I mean, I was laid off. I was on the business side of the bank. My wife was 7 months pregnant with our second kid. And got bounced. Right. And so it's been, this is kind of where I am in that journey now.
That's cool.
Yeah, it is, man. Did that feel like a big leap, leaving a big firm like that and starting your own?
I've done it before, and I spent probably half my career doing business or entrepreneurial things.
Okay.
And, I'm a big believer that the things in life that you regret are the things that you don't do.
Yeah.
And, I had some adversity in my career early on, and I realized I was never going to starve. So, it was not an easy decision necessarily, but I didn't lose a whole lot of sleep over it. I just kind of, go one speed, and that's just kind of how I do it.
I know people have asked, like, man, you started a shop, how'd you do it? And I'm just like, dude, you just got to jump off the cliff.
Yeah.
And like being broke.
It's scary, but you just got to do it.
Well, and I think too, one of the things I've learned is that I bet you 95% of the people that I've interviewed on the podcast are exactly that way.
Yeah.
Right. Like they didn't wake up and say, well, here's the great plan about how I'm going to become a bear guide in Alaska or a fine artist. They're like, this was what I felt compelled to do. And I really didn't feel like I was being true to myself if I did anything else.
Yeah.
So I think that, and also I think what you see is, and I think this is true in life in general, you got to show up every day.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And I think that, never underestimate the value of what you're trying to accomplish. If you just have a plan, and you don't have to stick to the plan, but you got to move forward every single day.
Yeah.
And I think if you look at people that are successful in our industry or other industries, I think there's a lot of that.
Yeah.
That might need to be the pro tip, Shannon, right there. That was it.
Move forward.
Yeah. No,
I mean, that was a good tip.
I mean, it really is. And, you were spouting out some data prior to the podcast today, just out there, just talking in general, about vices and things like that. So a lot of data based upon the podcasts you've done, the shows you've been to, the people you've met, come in contact with. Where do you see the fly fishing industry headed, in the near future and maybe beyond that?
I mean, I'm really optimistic. I think it's going to be different. I don't think it's going to be your great-grandfather's fly fishing industry. But I think when you look at, and I think part of this is the old guys, and all of us are pretty close to being old guys, right? Closer to being old guys than young guys, right? I think if we embrace how to bring people along, right? So I was lucky I got to fish with my grandfather when I was a kid, and that's what whet my appetite. But we have all these tools like what we're sitting and doing right now. Like, can you imagine when we were growing up, if anyone said, oh, well, you know what? In 25 years, you're going to be sitting in the back of a fly shop basically streaming your interview out to the world. You're not. And so I think our ability to reach and touch people is great. I think that companies have really kind of gotten religion on basically access and affordability.
Yeah.
Right. And so, when I started fly fishing, and I started late, right, I kind of came back to it because I was getting burned out being a lawyer. The game was, well, you can get the entry level rod and it's not very good, or we're happy to sell you the $900 rod and the $500 reel. And I think working on that access, if we all kind of can have a really positive attitude that there are a lot of different ways to skin the cat, I think we can do a lot to grow the sport. Mm-hmm. So I think, and I think so much of that's great, right? I mean, when you look at, how much flexibility we have just to make stuff, like look at just your branded t-shirts, right? Like how easy it is to like, oh, well, here's the logo, boom. And like within a week they show up at the shop. Our ability to find out what the people in our community want from us, if we'll listen, I think is great, right?
No, it is. And we've battled this for, almost 7 years now. We have the most educated consumer, I think, of any sector, because of the internet, because of YouTube, and somebody's looking at some rods, and I mean they can go look up 400,000 reviews if they want. And so they come into the shop, and you better know your P's and Q's talking with them and be able to adapt to that.
Yeah, and I think too, I think kind of what attracts people to fly fishing also makes them more thoughtful customers, right? Because it's, whether it's let's go see how many species I can catch on a 5-weight, or, well, I was here yesterday and nothing I've tried in the last week's working, so I got to try something else, right? And so I think that whole process about how you approach the water, I think people that are attracted to fly fishing, I think generally tend to be pretty analytic people or analytical people, and they probably like quiet more than the average bear, right?
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Absolutely.
So you've been fortunate enough to fish a few places on this great earth. What's probably your favorite for trout? Let's go with trout, not saltwater.
Yeah, I would say my favorite place on earth to fish is the Firehole River.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, that's a relatively, within the last 5-year phenomenon. I'm incredibly blessed. Again, another thing when you own your own law firm, I generally spend 2 weeks every late fall out west, and that's a beautiful time to be on the Firehole. It's an incredibly unique fishery in the sense of, you stand in the river and it can be snowing and the water feels warm to your feet.
Yeah.
The bottom of the river looks like black lava rock, right? And you're smelling that kind of sulfur steam coming off, and the bison are walking up and down the banks with snow on their shoulders. It's really pretty incredible. And,
That's cool.
it's an amazing day, and you can go out. And the neat thing about it is, you go out and kind of how I fish it. And the interesting thing is I find the fish on the Firehole can be a lot snottier even than the ones on the South Holston, because there's not enough current to really push them on structure.
Yeah.
And so, generally when I go out that time of year, if I'm not fishing like, near the junction where I want to fish streamers for all the browns running up, you just have a really relaxing day swinging soft hackles. And then you'll see the miller, caddis, and the betas come off probably 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and you fish that hatch. And then, I usually save an hour at the end of the day to watch the wildlife as I leave the park. Because, if it's cold, it's pushing those herds down into the valleys and watch the elk herds. And so that's my favorite place almost in the world to fish.
That's awesome.
That's cool.
Where do you stay when you go to West Yellowstone?
I usually stay down in Ennis.
Oh, do you really?
Yeah.
So you drive all the way from Minnesota
Yeah.
to the park?
I do, so for me,
It's not like it's an ugly drive.
No, it's a beautiful drive.
Yeah, I mean, part of it is, so for me, I'm going to always trade quality of accommodations for more fishing days.
Yeah.
And so, probably within the last 5 or 6 years, lodging in West Yellowstone's gotten incredibly expensive.
It has.
And that's a function of overseas tourists. Basically, there's never an off season. It used to be if you went out there in late September, the only people out there were the fishermen, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you could get a cheap room there. And so usually I stay in Ennis, and I'll do like an Airbnb or something inexpensive. And, the good news is it's getting cold enough that time of year. You don't have to get up at absolute crack of dawn.
Yeah.
And where I fish, I generally am not fishing close to people, so I'm not trying to like pretend I'm steelhead fishing in Yellowstone National Park and need to get my slot. So that's kind of how I do it. And there are great places to stay down in Ennis. They're great places to eat. Gravel Bar is an awesome place to get a burger at the end of the day. There's great bistros. There's best drugstore breakfast platter you'll ever have on the main drag in Ennis. So it's just kind of a neat place.
We went in that liquor store. Remember that?
Yes,
With
we
those
did.
guys?
Right there, and
down
then
there in Ennis.
and then right beside of it was
small.
was like the meat market, wasn't it? Wasn't it like?
Oh, yeah.
It's like right
You know
there.
what we're talking about?
Yeah, Restad's. It's right where you come in from Bozeman.
Yes.
And
Yes,
if you go,
that's it.
yes.
When
Yeah.
Shannon travels, there's always a liquor store involved somehow.
I'm just a driver.
Yeah, we were just driving.
I was just
Those
a
guys were
driver.
like, we got to stop at a liquor store.
I mean,
We were up there
the one to deposit.
Deposit New York.
You know what's so neat about the one to deposit, not to cut Marvin off, is we come out there. There's a picture of Bobby on this the poster board.
The lumberjack.
The
games.
lumberjack games, man. I think
They
I've
should
got
be
a
going on,
picture
like,
of that.
next
We
week.
need to get that up on the podcast video.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
But Ennis is a good base of operations. It's about a 1 hour run up into West, right? And
Worth
so,
it.
Yeah, absolutely. But the great thing is you can fish $3, right?
Yeah, you can hit everything on the Madison.
So you can fish up, and then you get, if you owe it to yourself to go stick your head in the slide in, and then if you're tie, there's another campground that's just up above the slide that's probably got one of the biggest selections of whiting products I've ever
Yes.
seen in my entire life.
He's got the best tackle selection probably in the U.S.
Yeah, and that guy's interesting.
yeah?
He runs that campground, and then I think he goes to like winter in Arizona.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've spent buku money on like platinum midge saddles and stuff like that.
I feel you on that, Marvin.
Yeah,
I on that. I just
Shannon got a nice one the other day.
I just
He
got
him
a
grizzly one.
yeah. I got a gold. Didn't get the platinum, but I got the gold. But I get a couple thousand flies out of it.
yeah. So I mean, it's interesting, but I think the neat thing about being in the park that time of the year is one, it's not crowded, but two, you can really feel the earth going to sleep for the winter.
Yeah.
Right? And that's just a really super cool thing.
That's a cool way to put it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in North Carolina, what's your favorite place to trout fish?
I have some secret places, but the place I'll tell you about, I really love fishing the Davidson.
Yeah.
Right. If
really, with all the pressure.
Well, so I'm a contrarian, and everyone that's knows me just laughed out loud when they heard that. So what I normally do is I'll go fish the Davidson when the DH is on,
Yeah.
and that pulls
So
a
it
lot
pulls
of the
all the
pressure
people
off.
off, yeah.
But what I would also say too is it's kind of almost like fishing with guides out in Montana, right, where they get off the water at 4 and all the good fishing's from 4 until dark.
Yeah.
Well, to me, if you go up to the hatchery in Brevard, there's no reason to get up early, and there's no reason to fight anybody, because honestly, if you pull up there at 4 o'clock, you can literally take your time putting your boots on. And
That's how it is on the Tuck. I'm serious.
Yeah, we've
Yeah.
been talking.
There'll be 80
recently.
people out there, and at 4 o'clock, they're all gone.
Yeah, and so that's one of my favorite places to fish. I mean, I've got some wild places that I've been sworn to secrecy, and I take that stuff pretty seriously. But that's probably my favorite place to fish in North Carolina.
Very cool.
That's cool, man.
It's a good one.
That is a good one for sure. But I agree with Marvin. I would rather start late than early. First of all, I just don't want to get up that early no more. I'm no longer in the military. But number two, I feel like I have better success in that evening time. This time of year, the hatches and things like that, and most people are gone, whether it's in a stream in the national park or state water.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's true too. It's interesting because I think, I'm lucky that I get to fish, and I'm not trying to work it in as part of like a bigger family vacation, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like we're gonna let you fish, and if the fishing's good for you. If it's not, bad for you. And so, I think letting all that work. I mean, it's the exact same way. If you go into the national, like the Smokies, or if you go into Yellowstone, it's packed, and you roll in there at 4 o'clock. Everyone's like, "Well, I got to get to the lodge and eat my brie wheel and have cocktails." And you're like, "Well, dude, I'm gonna sit here and fish." So, I've had some killer days on Soda Butte Creek where you drive in there and you're like, "Damn, I wouldn't fish with this many people in North Carolina."
Yeah.
And you just kind of wait it out, and they all leave, and you go and you just crush it, fishing for cutthroat. And the great thing is they're all eating dinner, and by the time you come out, you got the dinner places to yourself too.
Yeah.
So
That's cool. That's a
Marvin has had a plan around the crowds.
He
So it sounds like-
does, and I
Right,
am envious of that. So yeah, it's
Do
awesome.
another travel episode and
Yeah.
inject Marvin's advice. there.
Yeah, absolutely. No doubt about that. So we're going to get into a pro tip here, and this week Bobby's going to kind of handle that pro tip there with us. Pro tip, not tap. Pro
tip.
Pro tip, and this
Pro
is
tip this week.
yeah. So
We don't have a video or anything for the pro tip, but it was funny. Me and Dale were out fishing with a group this past week they fished with us for a couple 2-3 days.
Hey, Gene. Hey, Fred. Hey,
Yeah.
Bob.
Hey everybody, appreciate you guys. So while we were fishing, the day that we fished at one of our private sections of water, they fished it on their own the first day they were here, and hadn't had a lot of luck. They caught a couple fish, but not a lot of luck. And then when me and Dale were with them, obviously Dale, the best guy in the world, according to one of those fellas.
I didn't bring it up.
He said it. I was there. I witnessed it.
I read it on Yelp.
So the day they fished was that we caught quite a bit of fish. I mean, it was a great day of fishing. And part of what we did is we changed our flies a lot. And I think a lot of fly fishermen get in that habit of they tie on what they're comfortable with. Maybe they got 2 or 3 flies and that's it. And they don't change it and try to figure out what the fish are wanting that morning, that afternoon. I mean, it changes sometimes. It changes within a few minutes. It changes within an hour. It changes within the half a day. Just because it worked today doesn't mean it's going to work tomorrow. So sometimes you've got to have that idea of I'm going to change flies early and I'm going to change them often, and have a process of where you want to start and where you want to end with that. So what I mean by that is start with small flies and work to big flies, or vice versa. and start with color. Maybe start with, if you're doing a DH, maybe you start with a hot pink, but then you start working back into natural colors, or you start with white and work to black, or black back to white. Kind of work through the color wheel there and see what they're keying in on size wise, things like that. And usually you can figure it out. It may take you a little while, but I think that's really important if you've never fished a creek. Like these guys, they'd never fished that section of water, so they weren't familiar with it. So if you go somewhere, the fire hole, obviously swing by one of the fly shops and talk to them, but you may have to do a little work. And changing flies is super important. Sit at your coffee table at night and practice knots, so that when you're out on the stream, you don't take 20 minutes to tie some of your knots, and that'll just make your day a little more enjoyable once you get. And the more you tie on tie flies on, the better you're going to get at it. So it's just keep doing it. Change early, change often.
I even had to change how I rigged my droppers that day. I mean, I went from using like a Euro dry dropper setup to the inline, and when we made that switch, it somehow, I can't explain it. It made a difference. Yeah.
It's interesting.
We hadn't really got many fish there for a while, and I kept changing. Came back to girdle bugs because I like fishing girdle bugs a lot. I like to swing them just like a streamer kind of. And we were fishing kind of a coffee black color. Couldn't get a hit. I switched it to a green. Fish, first cast. Next cast, fish. It's just changing the color.
It just happened.
Nothing different about the fly. It was the same size, everything, just a different color. So.
That's also why we have 10 different colors of girdle bugs in the bins for you guys.
That's it.
Yeah.
Buy every one of them.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And that's a question that we get asked a lot. I know for me on trips with folks is, how do you know when to change? How often are you looking to change? And I echo what Bobby said there. It's really great advice. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. It's the same way on the stream as it is in life. So if you're unwilling to change, that the fish may not always come around to what you're doing and be receptive to that. But one thing I want to add with Fred and those guys there that booked that trip, later found out that we had a Purple Heart recipient that trip. So,
yeah, man,
so you guys are listening out there, man. Kudos. Kudos. Absolutely. Thank you.
While we're doing shout outs, I got to make one shout out. Scott Johnson from down in Atlanta called today, and so I told him I would throw a shout out to the ladies down there that he knows from the Georgia Women's Fly Fishing Club.
Cool.
Tori. So hello, Tori. He said that you guys listen to all our episodes, so we really appreciate that.
Nice.
So I want to throw a shout out. Next time y'all are up here, come in the shop and say hey.
Absolutely.
Sweet. Perfect. Good tip there. Good tip.
Yeah.
Awesome. It is different though. Out west, I mean, it is like kind of a matching the hatch game, right? Like if you're standing on the fire hole, or are you going through your fly box?
I think it depends. I mean, I think it's out west is really kind of like it is here, right? So, I think about, how long does the fish have to kind of look at what I'm doing and kind of what are they used to, right? And so, it's kind of like when I tell people the challenge about fishing the South Holston is there's a ton of biomass in that water.
Yeah.
And so nobody needs to move for your bug, right? So that's kind of problem number one you have. Problem number two you have is you generally don't have a lot of current. So you'll sit there and you'll watch those trout literally backstroke and watch your fly until it does something they don't want it to do. I would say, there are places out west where there's not a lot of fishing pressure and you can whack them just like you can whack them up in the mountains here. I sort of always try to, to kind of amplify your point about changing flies. I try to have a system. And it's nothing crazy, but if you just kind of go out there and you wing it, sometimes you're lucky, sometimes you're not.
Yeah.
But
I do the same thing. I kind of have like probably a half dozen flies that I already know, like I'm going to fish this, and this until I exhaust them all.
Yeah.
If I haven't caught fish, then I'm going into
What's your last resort fly, like your least favorite, like on those days where your fly patch is full?
Yeah, I
like ours yesterday, Shannon.
I was going down deep.
I don't know. I can't. I don't know that I have a secret thing. I'm a big fan of soft hackle flies.
Me too.
Right.
Yeah.
And then I would also say, I mean, if I was going to have to do the kind of the Roger Staubach Hail Mary thing because I was trying to save the day,
Go Cowboys.
then yeah, exactly. I would generally try to go super curveball. Right. So if someone's telling you,
shrimp.
Yeah, but I mean, I think sometimes, and I think some of it too, and I think this is really true on the South Holston, I think getting a good drift is more important than your fly, right?
I agree with you on a lot of water.
Right. And
Yeah.
so I think there are places like the Henry's Fork is one of those places where you better get your game on because it's going to be really interesting and fiddly. But I mean, I think, a lot of the mythology, and it's not that the South Holton's not a challenge, and Lord knows I don't have it figured out, but I've helped like Project Healing Water Vets fish. And I was like, first of all, we're going to get to the bottom and we're going to know we're ticking. Right. And I think a lot of this stuff about this super fine tippet, a lot of times it has to do with people not being able to get a good drift.
Yeah.
And so they kind of, do what you have to do, dude. I'm not knocking it, but if I can catch them on 4 or 5 and I don't have to fish 7, I'm going to put them on 4 or 5.
Yeah.
Because one, it's better for the fish. And secondly, I'm not going to lose it. So,
That's an interesting point about, the 4X. I grew up fishing 4X. I mean, we fished 4X. And Dale and I were talking about leaders on the way back home yesterday from out on the water all day. And I feel like here, fishing longer leaders is a great thing at giving advantage, but most folks can't handle fishing a long leader in the conditions we have.
Yeah.
But I say don't shy away from 4X if you can handle the stick pretty good. It will help you. As you mentioned, as we start to warm up, it's better for the fish, for sure.
Yeah, to get them in a little faster.
It really is. So obviously you've been a lot of places, Marvin. I want to ask you one question for me here. Where is one place that you have not fished yet that you want to go? If you could only select one, where would that be?
yeah, my number one bucket trip is Mongolia. And I was working on that until, the COVID came.
The mess.
And I'd spent a lot of time looking at it because, you're going to, unless you're crazy fortunate, you're only going one time.
Yeah.
And I think the trip is interesting. I think catching the largest trout on a fly would be incredible. I think the other neat thing about that trip is they have these golden eagle festivals. And basically, they still are nomadic, the folks in Mongolia, and they hunt with falcons. And so they have these golden eagles, and they literally steal these eaglets out of the nests when they're babies, raise them. And so what they do is they basically, who's the most badass, eagle hunter, and they all come together and they compete. And so you can actually schedule trips where you can fish and then go see that festival. So that's my, and right behind that, a distant second is Kamchatka. So those are my kind of bucket list trips.
Oh, yeah.
Cool.
Heck yeah, man.
That's
awesome.
some good ones.
That's out there.
Let me know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So before we close out here, hopefully a lot of people will go to YouTube once we post this tomorrow and see the video. And I've been flashing up your Facebook and Instagram and stuff like that. But for those that are just listening in a podcast platform, tell everybody what's the best way is to reach out to you or comment on anything or anything like that.
Yeah, so we're everywhere, right? So if you're, the thing that helps the articulate fly out the most is subscribing to the podcast. And so wherever you listen to your podcast, if you search the articulate fly, that's great. And subscribe there. Leave us a review. That's awesome. And we super appreciate that. We also have our own app. So if, for example, you live in Pennsylvania and you're not as interested in hearing about the fishing reports, you can listen to only your Pennsylvania fishing reports. You can literally go either to the Google store or the Apple, App Store, search Articulate Fly. That's great. And then what I would say is go to the website and go to the www.thearticulatenodfly.com. And we're on every social media platform, and they're little icons. You can just click there and subscribe. So whatever flavor of ice cream you like to like, if you're an Instagram person, you can find us there. Facebook, we do YouTube as well. So check us out.
Awesome.
And I love feedback, right? Anyone that has a question, just like you guys do, like where to fish. And it's kind of cool, the people you meet, and then you get to meet them at a show or you meet them on the water.
Yeah, it's fun when people come in and they're like, hey, I've listened to all your podcasts. It's kind of cool to get that feedback and hear what they enjoy, things like that. So, we appreciate you coming on, man, and hanging out for a little bit.
I appreciate you guys having me on. And if you hit the tip jar on our website, you can support my KISS pyrotechnic project that I'm trying to have.
Oh my God.
For my 200th episode.
Oh,
Okay.
There we go.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you got to explain more now.
Yeah. That's
Is that something you want to plug real fast?
No, I'm just.
okay. Okay. You got our attention there. We were like, whoa.
Yeah, I'm like, what is this?
That's super old school, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
Leaf Garrett.
Yeah. Hey, back when we had bottle rockets.
Exactly.
Yes.
That's it.
Do you have bottle rockets still?
I wasn't allowed to.
Okay.
But
Wait,
they were around.
Okay,
yeah.
cool.
Set them things
Awesome.
off inside a barn. It was a bad time.
Oh my gosh, man. And people are hit with bottle rockets.
I mean, we had Roman candles, and those things.
That's cool, man. It's hard to believe. I mean, we're as we get ready to go to a fishing report, but geez, man, 4th of July is not too far away.
I mean, it's looked like 4th of July everywhere on the news lately. So.
Oh, I wouldn't go in there, Dale.
Yeah.
But true.
So let's knock out the fishing report.
All right, it's time for the fishing
Current
report.
events.
Fishing report. Fishing
our
report
jingle.
with our coach Dale.
Oh man, hey, so it got hot this week.
Hot, baby.
I mean, we hit 90 here in the valley, I think.
It got warm, man.
And Shannon and I were talking. We saw a few, or at least I noticed it come across on my Weather Channel app, that there was a air quality alert. So above, it said above 4,000 feet, like the ozone was dangerous. Like I guess it was like low levels of something. And I'm not an air quality guru, so I don't really know how to articulate that. But I noticed on the water yesterday that the sun felt so much more intense. Like my arm, I could feel the sun through my UPF shirt. So I think that heats our water up faster. And it's something I've never paid attention to is, and I know there's probably some folks listening is like, well, yeah, duh, that's what we're studying right now, this kind of thing. But yeah, the water got warm, and so it's definitely a game where you want to start early. Yesterday morning's trips out there at Thunderstruck, we had shots at fish and we landed some fish. In the afternoon, it was a struggle until the sun went down on the other side of the mountain.
Yep.
And we started getting more shade back, and the water immediately started cooling off. And find those tributaries, fish downstream from those tributaries, and that helps. But I think right now we're getting into our summer pattern. It almost seems like a normal June, where June is actually warmer than May.
Yes.
But try not to fish between 2 and 5. I just think it's probably going to be 2, unless you're smallmouth fishing. But I think it's going to be pretty stressful on the fish. But man, yellow and green. I would definitely just go ahead and start dry dropper if you're on creeks, or even if you're out here on the Tuck. Bloody Saturday happened, so delayed harvest opened up for harvest, and takes on hatchery supported regulations here until October 1st. So there were a lot of fish harvested on the Webster stretch of the Tuckaseegee.
Oh boy.
So my mom and dad were running shuttles. They counted 58 cars between North and South River Road. And there were several, like, 10x10 canopies set up with grills. I mean,
You can do it, right?
well,
take
I guess
them
so, but
downstream.
it's like, it's hard to enforce limits when you're cooking them as fast as you catch them.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, you think about it. I mean, I know we have one heck of a fishery, and we bring a lot of folks up here for 8 months out of the year. But that's phenomenal.
Well,
So that-
what else is amazing is that you can still go out there right now and fish. So,
He doesn't like the
that's
net.
kind of I guess a misunderstood thing is that once
There he is.
DH is
There
over,
you
I can't
go.
go fish the Tuck. Oh,
Heck yeah,
there's
man.
plenty of fish still in the Tuck. They cannot pull them all out. I think
That's
even
got
in
that
Bryson
orange
City,
color
it's even
to it.
tougher 'cause
It's
hard
one
to
of those
fish.
orangey. Nice fish,
and
brother.
there's a lot deeper holes for those fish to hide out and
yeah.
make it back for the fall. And we have seen
That on the
fish
hook,
going
kid.
up Deep Creek.
Reel that tight
So
for me,
some
buddy.
really nice fish being caught in Deep Creek. So dry fly wise, yellow, green. If you see those yellow sallies flying around, and definitely. And we got a video up here of Fred hooked up with a fish, and that was y'all were swinging those girdle bugs.
He might just be hung on that bridge.
That's a big fish.
No, he lands a fish here in a second.
Yeah. So no, it's Marvin and I. We talk about it on the fishing report. It's that time of the year where we've got to get up.
Oh, yeah.
Get high in elevation and really kind of chase brookies for a little while.
That is a big
And roll
fish,
those
man.
around in those high elevations where they support browns, but yeah, it's still good. I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't want to sound like doom and gloom. Like,
Well,
it's-
plus there's always smallmouth.
there's always smallmouth, and they're getting going. I floated through the Tuck Gorge today, kind of scouting that with the kids, and we call it the High Top Mountain Tour. So we float around Bobby's neighborhood, but no, I think the water temps are just right for smallmouth too.
Right.
Start coming alive on some flashy streamers,
Absolutely.
and I've never really done too well on the Tuck with poppers.
Interesting.
So
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's got interesting there.
But hey, come fishing. Come up, hit the fly trail in the afternoon, hit the ale trail.
There you go.
Yeah.
It is.
Absolutely. Amen. Thanks, Dale, for giving us that fishing report there. Coach Dale in the house.
Got to get them that headset.
I
with the
still,
mic.
have,
you
it,
gotta
I still
get-
have on here as diesel.
Diesel. That's
Yeah,
all right.
AKA, kind of an homage to his coaching days back there in the football field. But anyway, once again, thank you to Marvin Cash for driving up from Charlotte to be with us here today at the Silva Studio. We really appreciate that. Also, a big thank you to Dale and Bobby for making this Tuckcast possible here at Tuckaseegee Fly Shop. And with that being said, we're going to start to close this bad boy out here. We want to thank you for listening to the Tuckcast with a splash of bourbon, sponsored by CE Tech Innovations. Make sure you follow Tuckaseegee Fly Shop on all the major social media platforms for the latest happenings and latest videos. If you have a question or comment, we've been getting them. Be sure to send them to us at info@tuckflyshop.com. Or if you still send some mail, you can hit us up at Tuck Fly Shop, 530 West Main Street, Silva, North Carolina, 28779. Thanks for tuning in, and we will see you
Tight
next
lines,
week.
Marvin.
Tight lines, Dale.